and it's based on a radical denial of rights of poor people, as we just heard. It's interesting, we heard from the Minister of DRC, what's wrong with your country? Well, we don't even start by saying the King of Belgium created a slave colony for 30 years. The government of Belgium ran the slave colony for another 40 years. The CIA assassinated your first popular leader, Mr. Lumumba, and then installed another dictatorship for the next 30 years. And then Glencore and others now suck out your cobalt without giving you tax income.
Sometimes I feel like Africa was designed to be poor. There's videos I've come across professors, white professors, revealing secrets how Africa was designed to be poor. And funny enough, I've never come across maybe a leader from Africa, leave alone the Pan-Africanist, but leaders from Africa, politicians, are just accepting that there's a way Africa we have been designed to be poor. They usually seems to be okay with everything that's happening in Africa. The presidents, when they are in power, they know what's happening, but they're comfortable about it. And that's why those presidents that comes out with this knowledge and start saying, you know what, this is not how it's supposed to be. That's why most of them are being eliminated. Some of them are being just removed from power using coups, because they know the secret and they know they can change it easily. But Africa was designed to be poor since way back. For example, when Mali, the king of Mali, Mansa Musa, was the richest man on earth, and the city of Timbuktu was the richest city, built with only gold. Africa was rich, and some of the empires were being created in Africa. The empires, trading empires, Zimbabwe, we had an empire there. East Africa, we had an empire there, and things were okay. But when the white supremacy of the colonizers came, they wanted to take what they have seen in Africa. So they did not come and take just once. They came and put a system that will last for long. Let's hear this video of American economist Jeffrey Sachs exposing how Africa is being made to be poor, and then we go react on it as always we do.
We have a world food system. It's based on large multinational companies. It's based on private profits. It's based on a very, very low measure of international transfers to help poor people, sometimes none at all. It's based on extreme irresponsibility of powerful countries with regard to the environment, and it's based on a radical denial of rights of poor people, as we just heard. It's interesting, we heard from the Minister of DRC, what's wrong with your country? Well, we don't even start by saying the King of Belgium created a slave colony for 30 years. The government of Belgium ran the slave colony for another 40 years. The CIA assassinated your first popular leader, Mr. Lumumba, and then installed another dictatorship for the next 30 years. And then Glencore and others now suck out your cobalt without giving you tax income. We don't reflect on that. We say, what's wrong with you? Why don't you govern properly? And so we have a system, but we need a different system. We cannot turn this over to the private sector. We already did about 100 years ago. Not only to the private sector with the U.S. military behind it, with the defense of these property rights in the Minister of Honduras's country, where United Fruit ran the country for a long time. And their attorney was the foreign minister of the United States, Secretary Dulles, and his brother was the head of the CIA, and overthrew the next door neighbor, Mr. Arbenz, to make sure that United Fruit could have its property. So we have a system, but we need a different system. And the different system has to be based on principles of human dignity in the Universal Declaration, principles of sovereignty, principles of economic rights, because these are not nice things to do. In 1948, all the government said that food is a right, social protection is a right, not a nice thing, not a pleasant thing, a right. That was 73 years ago. The SDGs are nothing more than our generation's attempt to honor the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I come from a country that not only doesn't care about the world's poor, it doesn't even care about its own poor. 1 in 7 Americans is hungry right now. And they don't care. I mean, the poor people care, but one political party, all it cares about is cutting taxes for the rich and filibustering any solution. So we're in a world that's really tough. The private sector's not going to solve this problem. I'm sorry to say to all of the private sector leaders, behave, pay your taxes, follow the rules. That's what you should do. And what the governments should do is the following. They won't, but they should. First, the G20 should become the G21 by inviting systemically the chairperson of the African Union and the African Union to be the 21st country. The European Union is a member of the G20 as the EU. If you add the AU as the 21st for the G21, you add 1.4 billion people to representation at that crucial event. That will change decisively the discussion, because 1.4 billion people are not at the table for finance right now, and they need to be. So my first recommendation is the G21. I love the G20. Add one seat, 1.4 billion people with the AU represented. Second, we need an order of magnitude change of development finance. The rich countries just borrowed $17 trillion for COVID. The poor countries, nothing. Because the rich countries can borrow at 0, and the poor countries pay 5 or 10% coupon rates or have no access at all. So the world exposed its grotesque inequality this past year and a half. Rich countries didn't say, we tighten our belts, why don't you? My country spent $7 trillion of emergency funding, not one penny for anybody else, by the way. $7 trillion, it didn't even cross the imagination of the US Congress to include a few crumbs for the rest of the world. But the poor countries cannot borrow. That's what we should have heard from the World Bank. I didn't hear that from the World Bank. I didn't hear real numbers. Real numbers are in trillions right now because the world economy is 100 trillion a year. But we don't talk about real numbers. But my job, all I know in this world is long division. Divide by 100 trillion and then see whether you're talking about something real or not. So that's the second thing. We need massively to increase the lending and borrowing capacity of poor countries at near 0 interest rates like the rich countries have. Then they could get something done. By the way, for COVID vaccines, what we really need is for the United States to sit down with China, with Russia, with the European Union and the UK one day around the table and allocate these vaccines rather than hoarding them. That's all it would take. And then we're going to have national pathways. This is a wonderful idea, but they're going to need financing. And so everything that I've been saying, I know the numbers. That's all I do for 40 years is add up what's missing. You want electricity? It has to be purchased. You want digital access? It has to be purchased. You want safe water irrigation? It has to be purchased. This is what I do for a living, is add up these numbers and then find out that then somebody makes up something and names 1/100th of what's really needed. It's not even hard. By the way, the IMF has done wonderful studies in the last 2 years showing that we have a financing gap of about $400 to $500 billion a year for the basics for the SDGs. They show the gap, but nobody comes up with the number, the solution, which wouldn't be so hard because that's just not a big number. It's 0.5 of 1% of world output. So if we really care, we wouldn't have the G7 saying, we love education, therefore we're going to give $3 billion for education. That's what they said at the summit. But what UNESCO has shown is that you need at least $30 billion a year, minimum. But nobody looks at numbers. They just make up nice check the box. So we need the real numbers of finance to back the national pathways. The final thing is we need the UN as the core and central institution of this world, period. Because this is the only way we're going to have a civilized world, is a strong UN. And it cannot be that the whole UN budget is less than my neighborhood's budget in New York. The UN core budget this year is $3 billion. New York City's budget is $100 billion. And then we say, why don't things work well? Because the rich are hoarding everything. Final point, rather than our 3 billionaires going in space, well, they could go into space and stay there and leave their money behind. That would be one idea. But another idea is we have 2,775 billionaires on the current list. Their combined net worth, 2,700, is $13.1 trillion. Now, I have it on good authority, you don't need more than $1 billion to be comfortable. But they have an excess of $11 trillion over just the $1 billion. So we should be taxing that and having a civilized world. Thank you.
Welcome back. Now, he has talked a lot, and whatever he's talking is something that our leaders know. They know it's happening and they can change it. The AU, the African Union, knows what's happening. They can change it. The East African community know what is happening. They can change it. The ECOWAS knows what's happening. They can change it. But they are not able to change it because they fear the system that was installed. As I said earlier, the riches that was in Africa, the white people came and they knew, and they wanted to take away from us, but they did not want to use that force at first, and that's why they decided to put systems. First of all, they came with what we call religion. Their religion is good, and yeah, it's good for us, and we know it's good. But at some point, when the religions came, these Islams and religions like Christians and Judaism, all those, when they came to Africa, that's where problems started, because they wanted to create problem and wanted to create cure. They wanted to create problem and wanted to create hope. Now they came with Christianity, Islamic, so all the Arabs came, the whites came, but here specifically we are talking about Christianity, which was the largest part. For example, in Congo or in Zaire, the Belgian king sent his ministers or his pastors or his, the evangelists to Congo. When they landed to Congo, that's where problems started. Now, they installed this system of Christianity, and then they installed education so that we can learn their ways. They can teach us, because we were like primitive. So they were trying to teach us, to enlighten us. Education, Christianity or religion, they came with their new way of medical system, healthcare. Now we abandoned our way of medication using the indigenous crops, indigenous roots, and we started going to hospital courtesy of white people. I want you to see how the system was installed. It was so strong. Now, they brought education to teach us. They brought medical or health care for us to be going in their hospitals. They brought churches for us to abandon our African spirituality and start going to their churches. They brought their way of, I can say, security. They come with firearms, and we had to throw away our arrow bows. We had to throw away our slings, and we started using guns. They brought a lot of things. Now, after bringing these things, now that's where they decided now it's time for us to take. It's time for us to loot, because we have conquered physically, we have conquered mentally, we have conquered spiritually, we have conquered bodily, like health-wise. So they conquered our brain, they conquered our spirit, they conquered our body. Everything were under their control. Now they started looting, and we started having hope, and we started getting sick, and we started going to their medicine hospitals, and we started feeling like we need this church for us to survive. We started seeing that our African spiritual was bad. We started seeing that our African roots and indigenous medicine are bad. We started seeing that our way of living is bad, because it was a long con, a long brainwash. And they captured this. They started through young ones, the kids, because they know the old people will revolt. So the education, the religion was brought to the young people. And from there, it was a design that this city of Nairobi, this city of Cairo, this city of South Africa, this city of Accra, Ghana, will no longer develop without us. And we accepted, yes, you are the king of the kings. You are the white man. You came with firearms. You came with education. You came with Bible. You came with cars. You came with everything. You are like a God. The God that we were praying to help us, you are the one. That's how brainwashed we were. So the generation that followed, after the generation that were there when the white came, the generation that followed were fully brainwashed. And that's why we got slavery, slaves working on our farms. Somebody comes and steal your land, and you are the one who is working to that land, and you are not eating well from the things you are working on. So that's how the system of poverty was installed into Africa. And Africa is designed to be poor forever. Like, if we don't educate ourselves, if we don't get out of comfort zone, if we don't stop believing in the white supremacy, if we don't stop believing in these things we are believing from them, we will not outsmart them. We can't. We can't outsmart them when we are going in church from Monday to Sunday for us to pray, to kneel and pray for hope. And we are not working on that hope, because we cannot go. Let me tell you something. I know most of you will not agree with me. You cannot go to church to pray for good leadership, and then a bad leader comes to power, or a bad politician comes to power, and we are saying it's the will of God. No. If you want a good leadership, if you want a good leader, good leaders comes with a lot of, they can be blood, they can be coups, they can be revolt. Good leaders does not come that easily, because bad leaders, bad politicians are the ones who are holding power for long, just exchanging powers. Even if we pray from morning to December, from December to January, without us doing something, we cannot get the bad politicians from power. But they gave us hope, saying that the leaders that are being chosen is the will of God. That's the hope. Can't you see what I'm saying? It is the hope that the leaders that are in power were chosen by God. Hope. They keep us believing that if we're going to pray so well, if we pray so hard, we'll have a good leader. No. Have you ever had a good leader? Even the leader of Burkina Faso, who people think is good, who people say is good, he did a coup attempt. He removed the former president from power. That's not the work of prayers. That's the work of you knowing what you want. This prayers is here to give us the life, because we need to spiritual life. But in the worldly life, we need to act. You see someone like Elon Musk. They have campaigned for Trump to win. Elon Musk does not go to church, does not believe in Christianity or Muslim. He's just an atheist. But because they want America great again, they worked hard to make sure Trump is in power. So if Elon Musk would just go to church and pray for Trump to become the president and not do anything bad things, or these things people call bad, they can't get to power. That's why every day we say, don't bring God to politics. Politics is a dirty game. God is very clean. God is the creator. But we cannot involve God where he can't be involved, doesn't want to be involved. So we are living, Africa was being designed to live with hope. Africa was being designed to have hope. It's a land of hope. We are hoping gold and milk is in heaven. We are hoping things will change, and we are not keeping good leaders in power. We are hoping our economy will grow, and we are getting people like Ruto in power. We are hoping our children will not starve, and we are putting leaders who are looting from us. What do you think? It's a system that was kept there, and the system is being sealed by Christianity or religion, sealed by their education system, sealed by their health system, sealed by their cultural system, because we have left our cultures away and started living their culture. So for us to change is not just to wake up and say we want to change. We have to liberate ourselves from everything. Cultural liberation, educational liberation, economic liberation, politics liberation. We have to liberate ourselves from deep the roots, because they dipped down and they put their roots down. That's what we need to do as the people of Africa. But we will just be crying, talking, saying we will change, having Pan-African meetings, but we cannot do anything great. So that's how Africa was designed to be poor. I know you have your comments. Can you tell me in the comment section what you think? Because this is the African way, and we are doing it the African way. We are discussing the matters of Africa. Tell me what you think on the comment section. If I'm wrong, just say I'm wrong. If I'm right, just say I'm right. Until next episode, peace be with you.